Okay, welcome to Weekday Somatics. So let's start by noticing notice how you are presently. Don't make any effort to change anything. So maybe you were already prepared. Maybe you already were beginning the exploration independently, and so you maybe already find that you are aware of the support that's here and your connection to it, the stability that's available. Maybe I caught you unaware, unprepared. But whatever the case, just see that it's possible to be here without doing it correctly, whatever you think that would be. See that it's possible without making any effort or seeking for anything to recognize the support that is here. And to perhaps start to get clearer on the fact that this support is truly unconditional, so that it's not something that we have to create the correct conditions in order to receive, but rather it's already present regardless of the conditions. So whether I'm sitting upright or I'm leaning to the side, that might be an interesting exploration. Maybe we'll do that someday. We'll just lean for 30 minutes. But regardless, this support is here and we can be aware of it. We can receive that support. Now, with all that said, take a moment to find a posture that you have confidence that you will be able to inhabit consciously, perhaps even pleasurably, for about the next 30 minutes. I recommend sitting upright if that's possible for you, because I have something in mind for what we can explore, and what I have in mind is seated upright, but you may also find that you could do it lying down on your back. So those are two options, but if you can do it without strain, seated upright, then let's try that. So for those who were here yesterday, you will recall perhaps what we explored. And I'd like to start by revisiting that, and then we'll do some variations. So Let's bring the right hand to the left shoulder and take a moment to find the most restful, pleasurable way to do this so that you're not straining. How to do that is just to observe whatever unnecessary effort you might be making. So I notice that when I do this, initially, there's a little too much aggression. Habitually, I strain a little bit, I push a little bit, I pull a little bit, I grip a little bit. So I soften the grip of the hand. I soften the unnecessary pulling in the right shoulder. I allow the right arm to come to rest on the chest. And then allow this somewhat unusual, likely at least, somewhat unusual position to highlight whatever it does. So in particular, I notice how the breath is moving. And I notice how I've been holding unconsciously, but now I can become conscious of it. I've been holding tension in the chest. My chest was rigid, but I can feel it now starting to soften as I direct my awareness to it. And I allow for the gentle weight of my right arm resting on the chest, coupled with the natural flow of the breath to highlight in my awareness the unnecessary effort I've been making so that I can soften, allowing the chest to be supple. I notice the connection between the chest and the throat. As my chest softens, I also become aware of the throat, and I can soften the throat. And as the throat softens, I can soften the chest even more. Remember, if this is ever strenuous, then you get to, and I would encourage you to ease up and to rest as you need. So don't do something just because I say to. If it's appropriate, then let's next, continuing to keep the right hand where it is, let's bring the left hand to the right shoulder. And as we did with placing the right hand on the left shoulder, as we bring the left hand to the right shoulder, let's take a moment to allow for this posture to be as pleasurable as possible. So let's release any unnecessary effort. Allow the grip to be as soft as possible. There has to be some tension here because the hands are holding on to the shoulders, but how gentle can that be? And allow for the arms to come to rest. So the right arm is resting on the chest. The left arm perhaps we can notice where the left arm is in contact with the body. I notice that the left hand is on the right shoulder, and there's a point or an area of the left forearm that is in contact with the right forearm. And so I allow that awareness of the contact to give me feedback so that I can allow the arm to rest more, so that I'm straining less. Still aware of the breath, aware of the chest, letting the chest be soft. And also here, perhaps noticing the upper back, how the shoulders can spread. The shoulders don't need to be making any effort. They don't need to be pulling or pushing or lifting or doing anything. Shoulders can be totally passive. Let the weight of the hands and arms naturally encourage the shoulders to soften, so that the upper back can also become more supple, allowing the breath to gently travel there. Now, again, you rest as needed. So if this becomes strenuous, it's important to rest. It's not going to be helpful if you're straining. If it's appropriate for you, then let's explore maintaining the same relationship between the head and the shoulders, so that the head doesn't turn independently. But then let's turn the torso so that the shoulders and head turn, but not independently. And we'll turn the torso to the right. Now, this should be very gentle, slow, and done with awareness, so that we can become more familiar with how we do this, and importantly, what's unnecessary. So what unnecessary effort am I introducing into this movement? So we're going to turn only as far as we can turn without strain. So that might be a small movement. We want to be able to breathe. The breath will change because this turning is going to introduce some restriction necessarily. But we can use that feedback to inform us, so that we can become aware of where we are introducing unnecessary restriction. So there's a necessary restriction, and then there's the unnecessary restriction. And we can start to differentiate and soften the unnecessary. Notice perhaps in the pelvis, in the waist, maybe in the thighs, in the groin, in the buttocks, what's unnecessary. Can the face be soft? Can the tongue be resting? Still breathing gently. And then slowly release to center. Now, don't try to come back to the same center. Just release. Take your time with it. Don't be concerned about what the external appearance is. Be more interested in the inner experience. So you may be still turned. You may not be turned. It doesn't matter. It's, can you become aware of the effort, and can you soften that effort so that inwardly you are experiencing neutrality, effortlessness. And then let's do the same to the left. So slowly turning the torso to the left, keeping the same relationship between the shoulders and the head. And then pausing here and observing where the unnecessary effort is, where the tension is, where perhaps the shoulders are doing some unnecessary work. Maybe the face is doing something unnecessary. Just becoming aware and softening, allowing the breath to be gentle. And then releasing to center. Now, if it's appropriate for you, please remember to always take a rest if you need. Don't push. Let's see. Let me see what the best instruction here is. Okay, so we're not going to try to make this a incredibly smooth transition, but let's just as gently and with as much awareness as possible we're going to change the position of the arms slightly, and we're going to bring the, if possible, the right elbow into the crook, if that's the right word, of the left arm. So it's similar to what we were just doing, but it's going to spread the shoulders and back more. And with the arm, so I just want to make sure that this is clear. So I can see that some people are doing it as I intend, but I just want to make sure that it's clear. So I'll state it again. So we're going to take the right elbow. Both elbows will be bent. The right elbow is going to come on top of the crook of the left arm. So the right arm comes all the way across the front of the body. Now take a moment to come to rest as much as possible here. Notice what unnecessary effort you may be making. Allow for the arms to be as restful as possible. And obviously, there's some effort involved. We're not just going to collapse like limp noodles, but can we allow the maximum rest? That's our exploration. Maximum rest while maintaining this posture. So allow for the chest to be soft. Allow the abdomen to be soft. And then continuing to maintain the same posture, more or less, we're going to introduce one movement into it, which is going to be a rotation. Well, I won't say what that is. I won't call it a rotation. Let's call it that the right hand and the right forearm is going to come to vertical, or in the direction of vertical. Won't necessarily come all the way vertical. And then slowly lower to the left. I don't know if I said that correctly. The right arm is going to come to vertical, or close in the direction of vertical. And then lowering to the left. So let's do that a few more times. And as you do this, be aware of the temptation to make it some sort of mechanical thing that you just do while ignoring something else. And instead, be aware of what you habitually ignore. So we're doing this movement, and the movement, if we allow it, will highlight things that we habitually ignore. So for example, I notice that as I do this, there is a straining, what I would call a straining sensation. Of course, it's not really a straining sensation, but I call it I'll describe it as a straining sensation in my left shoulder. Now you'll notice whatever you notice. It may not be the same thing. But I notice that my habit is to overlook that, to endure that, because I have this mistaken idea somehow that that's the right thing to do. But what I can do here is use this slow, gentle movement to highlight that habit, and then to become consciously aware and to consciously release. Now, let's take one more step in the sequence. So let's bring I have to just move this cord. I don't have to, but I'm choosing to. Okay, so we're going to bring the arm to the right arm as close to vertical as is comfortable. And then we're going to explore moving the left elbow up. And then slowly release down. So this might be an intense one for some of us. Yeah, so you take a break if you need. Don't push. So like I say, this might be an intense one for some. So it's really important that everybody honors where you are in this moment and what is appropriate for you. Because what's possible here, if we're really gentle, if we're really, really gentle, is that, well, what's possible is a miracle. Because what's possible is that we become aware of our previously unconscious habits of restriction and limitation, where we say, I can't, not possible, too much. And we become aware that it was only our own unnecessary effort that we were straining against. So we become softer and supple. Okay, slowly, very, very, very slowly release. Let the arms slide down. And take a moment to notice what this experience is. Just really tune into the actual present experience. Observe the habits of trying to get comfortable, adjusting, and just rest. Rest as fully as possible. Remember, don't strain. If you don't know how to find rest in this posture, then it may just mean that you're pushing too much. So it's always okay to be gentler. It's always easy. It's always okay to make it a little easier. Don't think that harder is better. Okay, so let's now, just because otherwise we'll be walking around crooked. Let's do something that will balance that out a little bit. So let's see. What does that mean? That means this, right? Okay. So we'll put the left hand on the shoulder, and remember, it's okay to rest if you need to. Don't think you need to do this just because I'm suggesting it. And we'll move through the sequence a little quicker on this side, but you can take as much time as you need at any point in the sequence. So don't feel that you need to rush ahead because I'm doing so. So take a moment and soften. Feel the breath. Let it be gentle. Let the chest be supple. Can you feel the space between the ribs subtly being moved by the breath? Let's bring the right hand to the left shoulder. Let both arms be as restful as possible. Allow the weight of the arms and hands to gently remind the shoulders that they don't need to be making any effort right now. Now, I'm I'm going to choose to skip the step in the sequence where we turn. But if you would like to do that, you're welcome to do so. And I'm going to suggest, just because I see the time, so I'm going to suggest that we, for those who wish to do so, that we can bring the left elbow into the crook of the right arm. And take a moment to really allow this to be as restful as possible. And then when appropriate, or if appropriate, let's keep the same posture, but introducing this one movement, which is bringing the right arm in the direction of vertical and then lowering it to the right. Sorry, the left arm. I don't know if I said that. I don't know what I said there. Left arm to in the direction of vertical, the forearm, just the forearm, and then lowering to the right. And allow this movement to highlight whatever it is that we've been unconscious of, the unconscious strain, so that we can let go of that unnecessary effort. And when the left forearm is next in the direction of vertical, let's keep it there. And then I'm going to untangle myself. And then, which way am I going? This way. And then let's move the right elbow up. And down. So we're just bringing that elbow up and down. And the left arm doesn't really need to do anything other than just keep the forearm vertical. We could do the lifting with the right, lifting and lowering. And we're exploring doing that as gently and pleasurably as possible, not strenuously. There's a big difference, really huge difference. So if you're shaking and trembling and straining, that's not it. It's truly possible to do this in a way that's pleasurable. And then let's release the arms, letting them slide down. And come to rest. Take a moment to observe. Be aware of any habits that are surfacing. See See that you don't need to indulge any of them. It's possible just to remain restful. And you get to decide. Just observe and then decide whether whatever impulse to move arises, whether it's necessary or not, whether it's useful or not, whether it's helpful or not. If it's important, if it's useful, if it's helpful, if it's essential, then of course do it. But if you're not sure, then just wait until you're clear. And now we'll begin to transition from the formal exploration and see that it's possible to do that smoothly without disturbing your awareness of or your sensitivity to the stillness, perhaps pleasure, poise, suppleness, ease that you have discovered. If your eyes have been closed, then see that you can open them gently and slowly without disturbing that awareness. And for those who are here live, we'll continue with the Q&A momentarily. Take your time. And for those who are watching the recording, I'm going to end it now. Thanks for joining.